Hello, my soul-led friend. Welcome into today's Pick a Card Tarot reading. Today is going to hopefully provide you a little bit of clarity if you are feeling stuck or unclear about your next steps within your business. This Pick a Card reading was inspired by a new offering that I have available on my website called the Business Clarity Review. And it is a personalized PDF report that looks at your current challenges and offers intuitive guidance and strategic feedback to help you move forward with more clarity and confidence. So if that is of interest to you, or if you simply want to get more information about it, the link for that is in the description box. For this reading specifically, I hope to give you some general clarity, inspiration, and possible actionable insights to help lead you forward on your soul-led journey and align to your highest expression within your business. The timestamps are in the description box, along with anything else that may be of interest to you. These readings are general and are here to offer you insight and not instruction, so please use your discernment and intuition to decide what feels best for you and lovingly leave the rest. If your reading does resonate, share in the comments, like this video, and consider subscribing to see more readings like this. And if the reading doesn't resonate, consider booking a personal reading, as your situation may be more complex or even private than this general reading can offer. Alternatively, you can check out another reading on my channel or another reading pile. So for those still here that would like an introduction and a close-up of all of the reading piles today, let me do that right now. For reading 1, we have Flow with the Caribbean calcite stone. For reading 2, we have Awaken with the kyanite stone. And for reading 3, we have Balance with the aventurine stone. So when you feel ready, choose the reading pile that is calling to you the strongest or the most, and head down into the description box to find the timestamp for your reading, and we'll meet you over there. Hello, my reading 1. Welcome in. You chose the Caribbean calcite with the Flow card. Now this may be some guidance for you here, and we won't get into it too deeply yet. I want to get into the tarot reading, and then we can do some oracle cards at the end and maybe talk about this card. But this, I feel, is something that you need to get into. So there's a flow that you need to get into, a groove, a rhythm. There's some resistance that could possibly be present at this time. And flow may not necessarily be an active thing for you. So it's not about getting into a creative flow. It's about going with the tide or going with the direction of the river. That is kind of it's kind of like instead of rowing upstream, you need to just let go of the oars and be passive for a time. But let's get into the tarot reading and see what wants to come through. So let's look at current business energy for you. And then we'll look at the obstacle that you might be currently up against and guidance. For reading number 1, please, let's get current energy about or something about their situation. Okay, we have the Lovers. So why are you here, dear reading 1? Let's see. The Queen of Cups in reverse. Okay. Guidance. Okay. Bottom of the deck, we have the Six of Wands here. Okay. So we have the Lovers in the current energy or the situation. We have the Queen of Cups in reverse for the obstacle. And then we have the Justice in reverse for the guidance, with the Six of Wands at the bottom of the deck in the upright position. So I think whatever you are doing here, you are in alignment. I feel like you might have some doubt about that. But when I see the Lover's card, especially in the upright position, that means that you have some sort of balanced commitment to something, and it feels like an everyday choice. It is a choice that you make every day, kind of like marriage, kind of like being in a long-term commitment of any kind. There is that requirement and that devotion to showing up to that relationship, that business every single day. And you may not be motivated to. You may not have the same energy for it day in and day out. But you're still there, putting in the work, or at least showing up for it in some way. So I feel like that is a really good energy to be in. There's a lot of balance, commitment, devotion, loyalty, etc. Now, the obstacle that you might currently be facing is a little bit of emotional overload. And it's interesting that the Queen of Cups, when she is in the upright, she is in flow. She is allowing. She is receiving. She goes with that flow. And it's interesting that this was your pile leader card or your reading leader card, and you chose flow. And I think you might be feeling a little bit out of flow, which may have you doubt whether or not the thing that you are pursuing, the business that you're building, is not correct. Now, I can't get into specifics as to whether that is correct or not, but I do feel that there's a lot of celebrations and success. I feel like you have overcome a lot in your business. And so I don't think you should throw anything away unless you are in a situation where it just doesn't feel aligned, or I don't want to say it's just too hard, because building a business and maintaining a business, it is a hard job. So, but there is a point at which it does not align with your soul, or it does not resonate with your soul anymore. No matter how much success you see, it might not feel good still. It might not feel like you're achieving something, or you're not resonating with it on a deeper level. That's sort of a red flag of when to consider other options. But I think the person that I'm reading for is very aligned, has had some successes, is really devoted to this business, is really committed to this business, but they're having some feelings of maybe doubt or emotional overwhelm, and it is blocking the flow of things at the moment. I might get a clarifier for that Queen of Cups just to see what is being blocked. Let's get the Queen of Cups in reverse. What is this? Queen of Swords in reverse. Yeah, there's a lack of clarity here, and that's kind of freaking you out. There could also be two people involved in the situation as well, where somebody doesn't really know how to communicate very well and is sort of confusing things, and that has you a little on edge, emotionally speaking. Be wary of people pleasing here, and could be a requirement to set boundaries with somebody here that might be crossing boundaries. So it could be people that you're dealing with here. There could be a client that you're dealing with that has really thrown you off emotionally, or this could be two aspects of yourself where you're unable to see the way forward clearly in some capacity. Whether it's the mind affecting the emotions or the emotions affecting the mind, it might be a little of both. But the guidance here, the Justice in reverse, it's interesting that that's in reverse. I think, see, Justice in reverse. Why is this in reverse? Queen of one other queen. So you have three queens here, and queens are all about flow, passive energy. It's not an active energy, and I think you're having a tough time being in that passive energy, being in that flow. There could be a fear there of I will lose success, or I will lose momentum, or I will miss out on an opportunity. And there's the Justice card again. So the same messages here. And I think you feel like you're going to miss out if you stop. Now, there's also a neutrality that comes with the Justice when it's in the upright position. And I think the guidance here is to look at some of your choices. To look at some of your choices and really approach it with a neutrality rather than a judgment. Because I think you've made some great choices, but I also think there are some choices that you could improve upon here. And choices that aren't rooted in fear, doubt, shame, guilt, lack of self-worth, etc. I think it has to be made in a space of confidence and a magnetism. Like, even though I'm in flow and I'm not active, that doesn't mean I'm not showing up for my business. That doesn't mean that I'm not taking the time that I need to consider next steps. Being passive can be productive. So I think that's your biggest takeaway here, is find ways to get into the flow a little more rather than finding things to replace the dead space, to fill the gaps. There's something about being responsive when you need to be responsive. And then on the off times when there's nothing to necessarily actively do, that might be a time to rest and to really regulate yourself in some way, to maybe set a boundary, to maybe find space to deal with some kind of emotion, to maybe realign yourself in some way, or to figure out the priorities of the next best thing or the next best action that you could take to move forward. So let's get some final oracle messages for you. Final oracle message. Okay. So the Queen of Cups in reverse is here once again with process your feelings. I feel there's some feelings that are either being, I don't want to say avoided, because maybe you're not purposely avoiding something, but I feel like there's some emotions under the surface that need to be processed. There's something that needs to be addressed. There needs to be space for something here, to process something, to release something, to get clarity on something. And the only way to do that is to slow down and to get more into that passive energy, that flow. I was going to say that slow energy. So there's a slowdown that might need to happen here, and then take a risk. And I think the next steps forward might require you to take a little bit of a risk that you aren't used to taking. So maybe this slowing down or getting into a more passive energy for a temporary period of time might feel like a risk, because what if I do lose out? What if I do lose an opportunity? What if I do get forgotten? Like, all of these fears and doubts might come through, and that is going to be the risk in those moments, because something here requires a shift, requires a change in order for you to open something up again, to open up to the flow again. Because I think there's something being blocked in this moment, and the only way to unblock that is to stop chasing something for a temporary period of time without judgment. So this is what I have for you, my dear reading number 1. If this resonated, let me know in the comments. Either way, I do hope these messages were helpful. Until we meet again, stay curious, and I'll see you soon. Hello, reading 2. Welcome in. You chose the kyanite stone with the Awaken card. Now, I feel like there is, or has been at some point in your past, a dead end or a disappointment that didn't take you anywhere, but it was transformative. So I feel like you went through some kind of an awakening, which now has put you onto a new path. So now there's this figuring out of what's next. And let me clarify that with tarot now. For reading 2. This could have been quite an emotional journey, whatever it was. So let's look at your current situation. 9 of Pentacles. You could be dealing with self-worth issues. 2 of Wands is in the obstacle or challenge position, and then the guidance to overcoming this obstacle. That's too many. One more. Okay, that one almost fell off the table. We have the Queen of Pentacles in reverse. I feel like you've had some challenges here, for sure. Maybe your environment has changed. Maybe there's been a move in your personal life, but there could also be this move from either home to an office or office to home. Or maybe a moving of either of those locations. So it has you in a challenging position of not knowing what the future holds. And maybe you had clarity about that at one point. You knew exactly where you were going, but maybe you hit this dead end, or maybe you hit this detour of some kind. And that really has you questioning a lot about what you value and what your value is as a person or a business owner. And maybe that's coming under scrutiny or coming under the spotlight in some way. And you're trying to figure that out of what is it that I bring to the table? What is my value? What do I value? And how can I communicate or express that in my business? It definitely first starts with self. So if there's an offering and you would like to start charging more, that might feel a little uncomfortable because there's an inherent belief about you and your offerings in terms of value and lack of self-worth. So it's about raising this vibration and really believing in what you have to offer is worthy. But if you're having challenges with figuring out what your values are, I do have a Brand Foundations Clarity Kit as well as the Business Clarity Review. And the Brand Foundations Kit is a DIY downloadable PDF worksheet. It has multiple pages and it has prompts that you can journal on to hash all of that out in a document so that you can refer to it, you can pull it apart, you can put it back together again and get really clear about what's important to you and how you want that to come through in your business. But I really feel like there could have been some loss of confidence of you as a business owner, but that is your perception because something has shifted or something has, I don't want to say failed, but there could have been a loss of money. The economy has been really challenging and you might be personalizing that. But also not really knowing what to do next. You're kind of in this moment of stuckness, but this is also your awakening. You are not being buried, you are being planted. So this is about really nurturing that soil, and this 9 of Pentacles in reverse is you nurturing that soil so that you can plant new seeds for the next thing. This could be a loss of a business too, so you could have physically closed locations or closed your business altogether, and you kind of had this expectation that you were going to have this business for the long term. But I think there's another level here. There's another level to your success that you don't quite see. And your guidance is to realign yourself with the things that you value for the long term, not just the short term. There's a number of pentacles here. There's 3 out of 4 cards that are pentacles. So this has to do with the reevaluation of values, a reevaluation of your beliefs and those core beliefs about yourself, about you as a business owner, about what you value in the physical world as well, and aligning and realigning to something here because something significantly has shifted. And now you have to define what's next. So you might have to spend some time doing that before you make the next move. Let's get some final oracle cards for you. And your reading is pretty clear, so I'm not going to get clarifiers like I did with reading 1. Really depends on whether I'm confused about the message and need more information, rather than just getting extra cards for the sake of it. So let's get 2 cards to finalize your reading. We have support, and that was in reverse. So don't be afraid of, yes, okay, getting support in this space from other business owners, from other networks or people that you know. Community support has been so foundational in my business and in my personal healing. So if there's a need, if there's something specific that you need at this time for that support, then seek out aligned support communities. It could be online communities, and those are usually paid for, by month. You can sign up per month, and those are relatively low cost. I don't think I've seen any that are below $25, but of course it depends on the community and the group. But also look for local communities as well. Those might be supportive. And shadow work, especially when it comes to all this pentacles in reverse. It's the things that are lying in your subconscious, and that is what shadow work is. It is working with the things that are driving us from within that we don't quite understand or aren't quite aware of. And that comes from those core beliefs that are sort of driving the bus, and we don't really understand why. We don't really understand where they come from. But doing the shadow work will help bring those to the surface and really give yourself an idea of what needs to change within so that you can make different choices or next steps with confidence. And with the truth at the bottom of the deck, I feel like you are coming to some kind of truth here. I feel like your truth is rising and getting bigger. And that is why things are changing, is because you're starting to understand, you're starting to awaken what is important to you and what you want to bring to the world that is of value, and what is valuable within you, and how you can frame that value for yourself and rewrite those core beliefs so that you can show up in the next thing with confidence and clarity. So these are the messages I have for you, my dear reading number 1. I do hope that they were helpful. Let me know in the comments if they were, and until we meet again, stay curious, and I'll see you soon. Hello, reading 3. Welcome in. You got a little bit of reading 2. So reading 2, there might be some messages there for you. I'm not sure. Maybe you're coming from reading 2. You chose the beautiful adventurine with the balance card. And there's something about really structuring your time here, really structuring how and where you spend your time so that you can get more balance in your day and be more focused when it comes to those tasks. There's also something here also about each quadrant being like work, sleep, play, learning. So there's something about structuring pockets of your life as well, so that you're not overworking and neglecting certain areas of your life. The Empress card in reverse came out in a pre-shuffle. Sometimes cards fall out, and to me that can be a lack of balance, but that can be a lack of caring for yourself in a way that will help you nurture something in the long term. There's also a sense of impatience as well with the Empress being in reverse. So there's a depletion of energy and also an impatience, but a resistance to slowing down. So let's get some cards now for your current energy or business situation. And the Six of Cups in reverse. Obstacle. Knight of Wands. And the Guidance. Queen of Wands. Okay, so there's a leveling up here. Interesting. I'm getting some messages from reading number 1. Then we have the World at the bottom of the deck. So there's a cycle that's coming to a close, and I feel that cycle is how you spend your time and the way in which you spend your time. Now, it's interesting that we go from the Knight to the Queen. And the Knight is this very like on the ground movement, action energy. It's very dynamic. It's very passionate. There's a passion and it gets acted upon. And also a very fiery energy too. So there's not a ton of slowing down. Queens typically are a little more passive. They kind of wait for the right time to take action. And in the meantime, they just kind of sit and wait until the right moment, because they trust that the right thing will find them. Now, that doesn't mean it just sitting around and waiting for somebody to come to you. It's about taking that aligned action in divine time and not just being scattered. The Knight can be a little bit scattered. So that could be your obstacle, is that you're doing too much and you're doing a lot, and that is fragmenting your energy in some fashion. And so coming back to those fragments, it's like being really specific about who you're targeting, where you're targeting them, etc. If you're selling something or if you're looking for work, it's about getting specific about the who and how you solve their problem and the results of you solving their problem for them. And that requires a little bit of strategy. And I feel like that is the Queen, because she is very strategic when it comes to how she takes action and when she takes action. And the other times she just sits and wait and has the confidence to know that the right thing will come along at the right time, or the right opportunity will happen when I show up in a community, or when I don't know, post a video online, or whatever the case may be. You're still taking action, but it's not kind of all of the action all at once for any given reason. Okay, so that is part of the obstacle is part of your guidance. So it's being very intentional and specific. But let's go back to the current energy in the situation right now. The Six of Cups in reverse tells me that there's some attachment, emotional attachment to the past that you still got to hold on. And I don't know if that's something within your business, or maybe your business has maybe you had your business for a long time and you've done things in a certain way and you're kind of emotionally attached to that process. And that process is requiring some kind of change here. Now, with the World card, this is a card of freedom, but it's also a card of integration and integrating all of the lessons that we have learned to understand how to move forward in a more improved or efficient way. And I feel that's part of this guidance here. And that's the leveling up that's happening, is that you're no longer just doing for the sake of doing. You're actually getting strategic, intentional, or need to get strategic and intentional about the actions that you do take and how you take them. So I feel like there's some kind of cycle closing out. There's a little more freedom that you get for having, this structure in place, and to being really clear about things here. Now, the World card can also be travel. There are kind of two cards of movement. We have the Knight of Wands and the Queen of Wands, who is on a horse. So there is that potential for maybe moves to happen, for travel to happen as well. And that might help you gain some kind of experience, or gain some kind of, I don't know, there's maybe a connection that you'll make that influences this next chapter or these next steps. But yeah, this World card is all about integration of everything that you've learned up to this point, really understanding it and letting go of the things that are no longer serving you, especially when it comes to those emotional things that you might be attached to that are no longer really working. And that could even be part of your identity too, because you have identified possibly with the Knight of Wands energy, and that is your obstacle, is to make that level up and to see yourself or define yourself as a business owner in a new way. And it will. Why am I pulling these? I wasn't going to pull clarifiers unless I was called to, but I naturally grabbed the deck. So what would you like me to clarify here? It's Queen of Wands for the guidance, please. Knight of Pentacles, take this slow And you might have to stop at some point, like you might have to stop your actions, and that might be a little uncomfortable, especially if those actions are aligned to an old direction in your business. So you might have to stop just to review and assess and reevaluate whether or not what you're doing or what you are trying to attain or achieve is feeling correct or aligned still. And then the Knight of Swords in reverse, which is just, you have 3 knights here, and 2 of them are in reverse. And both of these, all the knights are usually about movement. The Knight of Pentacles is very, very slow, very strategic, very methodical. And when he's in reverse, it's like we have to take some steps back, or we have to completely stop altogether so that we can have a really good review of things. And the Knight of Swords is usually a very impulsive, when we have an idea, we act upon it, we think about it later very fast. But in the reverse, it can be a bit of a stall or slowing down until you get clarity. Now, it's interesting that he's facing in the future position, so I feel like that could be the future cadence within your business moving forward, possibly for a temporary period of time. But I feel like the way in which you are making moves, that you are taking action, or what you're taking action towards is changing quite significantly, and there's a leveling up happening within your energy field. There's almost like an energetic upgrade that you are having in this space of possible stillness, of possible wait and see, and really getting focused before taking action. And that's going to require patience. So it's interesting that we're coming back to the beginning in the pre-shuffle, which I didn't record, and the Empress in reverse came out. So it's like you have an impatience of getting to the destination, but this is about enjoying the journey and really seeing how it unfolds, delighting in the unfolding and the evolution of your business here. So final cards for reading 3, please. That fell on the ground. And there you go. One more. So yeah, because it fell on the ground, it's like fell on the ground and underneath the table. I feel like this is something that you're overlooking. And I do believe it's a benefit to you at this time. And it's only temporary. Cleansing. Yeah, it's interesting because the cups are water energy, which is about flow, which is about emotions, which can be about cleansing something out. So whether that is in your emotions, and you are processing something here within your emotions, and that came out in reading 1, or if it's something within your business that needs to be cleansed out at this time. But I really feel like the pause or the slowdown will really help you get clear about your direction here, and will maybe cleanse out something that is no longer serving you here, and possibly create some kind of balance within your life so that you can say goodbye to those things that aren't serving you and step into some new energy here. So this is what I have for you, my dear reading 1. I hope these messages were helpful. Let me know in the comments if they were. And until we meet again, stay curious, and we'll see you soon.